This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I am your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz, welcome back. Tonight's episode, we are discussing Season 1, Episode 3 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Power Broker. To find the source of this super soldier serum, Sam and Bucky must scale a ladder of lowlifes, starting in Madripoor with Zemo. Our director, of course, is Carrie Skoglund. Malcolm Spellman gets our created by credit. The written by credit this week goes to Derek Kolstad. And, of course, we have Gene Colan gets our created by for The Falcon, along with trying to see who did along with Stan Lee. Jack Kirby, of course, gets the Bucky Barnes and Captain America created by, along with Joe Simon. Steve Epting and Ed Brubaker get our Winter Soldier created by credit. And okay, this episode. Well, of course, we open up with our Star-Spangled Man with the plan. First we open up with a commercial for the Global Repatriation Council. And, that's the thing about these kind of groups is, like, the nicer their ads, the more evil you know they are.
I mean, there's also the thing to consider that, there's a lot to deal with doubling the population. So, I mean, like...
Yeah.
Either you get it dealt with, or you worry about everybody's little sensitivities.
Yeah. Well, what it is it is the logistical issue, and
right.
That's something I do want to bring up when we get to the big heel turn at the end, because we do get a big heel turn of, oh, hello, charismatic supervillain that we've come to love and admire. How will you disappoint us now? And just so you know, that's not the only heel turn we're getting. And for those people who don't see that other really obvious heel turn coming, I feel sorry for you.
Okay.
Okay. I'm talking about Zemo as the other obvious heel turn.
Who's the first one then?
Well, the first one is, of course, Kylie Morgenthau.
I see. She was already a heel, but turning into a heel.
But she's got that Killmonger Thanos vibe right now, where it's like, it's for the good. It's for the
right. Until she does what she does.
Until she makes her choice to just do the evil thing that doesn't help people.
Right. She crosses the border into irredeemability. Exactly.
Which, for what it's worth, that is the kind of thing that, like, the original Flag Smasher didn't want to do. Like, in the comics, the original Flag Smasher is basically just a vandal. Like, literally all he wants to do is smash flags, like, tear down, like, monuments and, like, smash things that... He's an iconoclast. He wants to smash the icons of this differentiation. He doesn't actually really want to commit massive terrorist attacks. Which is probably why they said, we need something a little deeper than just someone that says, smash the flag!
Yeah.
But as we open up in this, we have John Walker smashing into one of the safe houses that Kylie and her crew were staying at. And, using real, for want of a better word, Gestapo tactics. Doing a no-knock warrant, just smashing into this place, And you can see the German guy in there who isn't he's speaking German at what's his name?
Something.
What? No, at John Walker. He's speaking German, and of course he calls in Battlestar to translate. This is an interesting thing because it's the second time where the person who speaks German is the black guy. Because if you remember from Captain America, the First Avenger, it was actually Gabe Jones who spoke German. Yeah, so it's just an interesting thing, and and in that case, it was like.
Did Cap speak German, or did he speak multiple languages? Because
like original Cap, he speaks multiple languages. He speaks German. He speaks.
I'm surprised John Walker doesn't, because he's supposed to be like so, But I guess that's
supposed to be very smart, but that doesn't mean that he applied himself. And to be fair, that's actually one of those things where this one of these random bits of trivia I know. Cap does not know how to speak Portuguese because he landed in Brazil once, and actually it was a native tribe that they were captured by. So they probably weren't even speaking Portuguese. Right, but someone asks him, "What are they speaking?" He says, "I don't know. We're in Brazil. It's probably Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese." Yeah, if they were speaking French, German, Italian, Japanese, or Chinese, I'd be fine. But we haven't had a lot of wars with Portugal recently.
Yeah, that's funny.
But anyway, so. But we also get the spitting in the face of Captain America, especially when he goes full Captain Karen on her, on the person, and saying, "Do you know who I am?" And then the guy basically says, "Yeah, and yes, I speak English. I could have spoken to you English the whole time. Had you been polite, I might have spoken to you in English." But he says, "Yes, I know exactly who you are, and you're being a bully. You Americans are coming in right now, pushing your way through, saying this is how things are going to be done." And I can see how it chafes. And as they're leaving, Battlestar makes the point. Hoskins makes the point to John Walker, they're giving people medicine and food. That's going to earn you allies. The real question is why are the logistics, although I guess there's the point in this, it's only been a few months since everyone came back still. So the logistics really are problematic. And they are these logistics of dealing with these first few months. Interestingly enough, I get the feeling that when we see Far From Home, it's like it's several more months. So like Far From Home takes place much further into the future.
The world seems much more okay.
Exactly. And I think that's sort of where we're getting into this idea of where these shows are. And this is something, as I said, that they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they were avoiding certain topics in certain shows because they did not want to have to deal with what the timeline was, So, right. After the snap, they don't really address the snap, and then they come back a year later. So after the snap is done, but now the world is back to where it is. And then when Avengers come back, they come back 5 years after the snap. And it's a completely different world, And so that's sort of the idea, is that it's everything that happens as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. happens between the blip, between the two snaps. And then what happens in Avengers happened after the first snap. And then Far From Home is actually probably, I want to say maybe, has to be at least like 6 months, because it comes into September. So it's like a little further along. And obviously America is having a better time with dealing with their returned people than other countries are. And that's always that thing. It's like if you start off with a country that's already having financial difficulties, and then and it's a weird thing. But anyway, so they come back. These repatriation camps are an issue where they feel very poorly run. People are crowded together, which is an issue we're going to get to in a bit. But and that is Kylie's motivation in this. Meanwhile, we have Cap and Bucky. They've gone to go visit Helmut Zemo. And I got to be honest with you, it is a little disturbing how comfortable Bucky is with helping Zemo break out. And for what it's worth, it was clear either Bucky and Zemo had been talking beforehand.
Very possible. He could have, had this conversation with. Didn't he go visit Zemo on his own before?
No.
Oh no, that way Sam was there. So I mean that's entirely possible. He's always lived on the fringes. He's never had sort of much time spent in normal people society. He's always been in the shadows.
But how quickly he makes that turn to help Zemo escape is really a little bit disturbing, especially when he makes the statement to Bucky that, I wanted to, because he reads him the words and he says, yes, I wanted to see how you would react. And he does say, I see there's still something in there. Meaning that, they may have overwritten it, but that doesn't mean I can't bring it back out.
I took it to mean a bit more figuratively. Like, I just wanted to see, like, what your stance on your previous situation was. How you relate to what happened. Like, how you see it. How you built the narrative in your head. And based on how he reacted, he's like, oh, you still feel some sort of way about it. You're still messed up from it. Mm-hmm. So, I can still manipulate. Maybe not to bring you back to that, but, like, there's still something for me to play with. You're still not well. There's still some, uncertainty in your psyche that I can manipulate.
Yeah, and not well is definitely what he is. He is not well. And I think that is the idea that we're going to have to be examining in all of this is, what is Bucky's problems? Where is he falling into these issues within the things that he wants to accomplish? Because, and like I said, not for nothing, he takes this note that had to have been written up by Zemo at the start. Like, Zemo tells him, take this piece of paper and drop it over here. And to be fair, this, I don't know, have you read, what's it called? Needful Things?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the tasks that, the antique shop owner asks of people, it's always like some real weird random thing, like, throw mud at this place and do this little prank for me. I just want you to pull this little prank. And then, but of course, it's to unleash the larger chaos. And because I don't think Bucky gave him the security card. I think he had the security card. I think that because of his connection, someone had already snuck that to him, that he had what he needed, but he needed someone. And it seemed like he was waiting for someone to show up that he could use to make the communication, to start the riot, to get him out of here, and then he could connect with to get him further. Because, as we see, Jeeves could have certainly shown up and dropped a piece of paper on someone's desk if he needed to. He was waiting for a Winter Soldier, and he is planning many steps ahead, as usual. And he is thinking about, which makes me wonder how much of this really is how much of what we're seeing is not just more manipulation. Like, there's a great X-Files episode of, like, the luckiest man in the world, where it's like he is always lucky, but then someone else gets unlucky because of luck that he has. And there's this whole idea here in this that there's just this constant Rube Goldberg device going around everything constantly. And yes, he has this, because there's this item where, says, his luck must have ran out because he got hit by a truck. But after he gets hit by the truck, Mulder hears, actually, man, this guy is so lucky, from what happened. He realizes, he was supposed to get hit by the truck because that was the lucky thing for him. That was what takes him out of the equation and puts him in a safe spot, And so you get this idea that there's this constant Rube Goldberg machine that's running, and Zemo is just so aware of all the pieces that he has put into play that he knows how they're unwinding, which is, of course, part of the problem with Zemo. Because we do find out, of course, Zemo is rich. Zemo was a baron before the Avengers destroyed his country, as he says. And they didn't destroy his country. They destroyed a city in his country, and not that big of a city. So this was like either one of these little super small...
Probable cause.
Well, it's like, what's it like, Liechtenstein? But even Liechtenstein, I think, is bigger. If like the entire country is destroyed by one city getting nuked, when all the people are taken out, and yeah, there's a lot of property damage, but really, not for nothing, just the tourism dollars alone is going to be valuable. And as people have pointed out, it's like, oh, also now this is like the largest deposit of vibranium in the world. Although, as he stated that, obviously after the blip that, or after the Sokovia, that basically all of its neighboring countries came in and took over Sokovia. So it got partitioned up. Right. Which means that basically their enemies came in. Which also leads to this idea of, if Sokovia is a relatively poor country, the idea that the Zemos, as the barons of that country, are so ridiculously wealthy suggests that it was an exploitive relationship to start. And that's one of the things, because he makes this point about, Cap's a good man, but he's a symbol, and symbols are dangerous. But really, the fact that Zemo is a baron is also a symbol. His entire power...
But, those two things don't have to be related to each other. Obviously, he's not saying, he's a good guy. It's kind of like when the Joker says to the Batman, "You're a freak like me." It's like that. It's like, you're no better. He's not saying that I'm better. He's saying you're no better.
What he's actually saying is, it's very dangerous for the super soldier serum to go out in the general population. So I could be a super soldier, and we see that. And actually, if you go into the actual history of the Zemos, they kind of are. Like, it's like this, they have this super elitist Nietzschean Uberman mentality that makes them want to be, just built better and see themselves as better than all other humanity. And the idea of something that could democratize superhumanity is very scary if your power as being a Zemo is completely reliant on other people not being superhuman. And it brings in, there's an entire different level that you can read into this, where it's not so much that he is mad about the existence of super soldiers. It's that he fears how the existence of super soldiers will affect his position. Like, if suddenly everybody's a super soldier, right, then what makes the Zemo special anymore? And that's the thing. That's why I tell people, don't get too attached to Zemo. He is going to do this big heel turn. He is the villain of the piece. And I
don't think he has to be a hero for people to like him. He could just be a really good bad guy. And I think that's the hope people have for him. I don't think people have any expectations that he's going to be good. He's just like, man, that is a really enjoyable bad guy. And I can't wait to see his heel turn. I bet it's going to be cool also.
Oh, yeah.
I think the fascination with him.
I agree. Here's what I'll say. There are people that can accept that, yes, he's just a good villain. Then there are people that get all, it's so cool, he's helping out the good guys, he's actually a hero. And they remember, he founded the Thunderbolts, and the Thunderbolts were heroes. And overlook, the rest of the story of the Thunderbolts, which is yes, he did found the Thunderbolts, and some Thunderbolts became heroes. But he was literally founding the Thunderbolts to manipulate the world into accepting his group of heroes as the new defenders of Earth, so that they could then do more crimes.
Isn't that? It's funny how sort of that's exactly the kind of thing he's talking about. Symbols and once you create like some sort of symbol that you have to blindly, pledge allegiance to, you can be talked into supporting things that you don't genuinely support simply because you feel like the other side is on the opposing side. And if you have symbols that you adhere to that you can't question, you're put to a choice. Do I continue supporting this thing that I don't really support because the other side, or like that becomes a dangerous thing, when you blindly follow things. So, and it's that same exact thing that he's talking about. Whether or not he's part of that same problem, I don't think, plays into this, because he's not claiming to be better than. He's simply pointing out, hey, this is what's happening. Not saying nothing about me. Of course, I'm doing the same thing, but that's what you see there.
I said, I think his intention to destroy super soldiers stems from something a little deeper, which is about him trying to controlling the line of superpowers, which goes into that central big question of who is the power broker. Because, I don't think Zemo is necessarily the power broker unless he really did have access to a lot of stuff while he was in prison. Maybe
working for the power broker?
Well, I think that there is the argument that there's a Dread Pirate Roberts kind of thing with the power broker, where there is no one power broker, similar to the way there really was no Big Brother, but that, it was important for the symbol of Big Brother to exist in 1984. It's important for the symbol of the power broker to exist in Madripoor, which makes me wonder, are we going to get what's his name, Sir Ben Kingsley as the power broker by the end of it? They pulled him out and said, "Yeah, we're going to set you up. We're going to put the Mandarin wants to use your talents for the best of its use." So if we get a Sir Ben Kingsley final scene with he's the power broker, because that's his job, the Mandarin put him there expressly. I would be so in awe of that. That would be fantastic.
That would be hilarious.
But all that said,
I've read a lot of theories, people saying that Sharon Carter could be the power broker.
I hear that, but I don't think so.
Right, she's too new inserted into the situation to have that sort of reach and to have that sort of the reins of something that deeply entrenched.
Assuming she didn't blip, she may have been there for 5 years.
Right, but even 5 years is not enough time to become sort of the power broker, something that I feel like is relying on intentions that go back decades.
Well, but again, that's where there is no one power broker, but that she may be the latest person to take over the role of the power broker.
Or even somebody pretending to be the power broker.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. Very few people have really touched on this, which surprises me. Unless maybe someone is touching on it and it's just not getting into my algorithm. So, what happened to Sharon in the comics is after she died, quote unquote, which was, I want to say...
You mean Blip or...
No, she died. She died in the comics. Yeah, in the comics, she was dead for a very long time. That's when Cap starts dating Bernie and Connie Ferrari and a bunch of other women. For those who don't remember, Cap had a girl in every port. Cap liked the ladies. That's all I can tell you about Cap. But
the ladies loved him too.
They did. Well, he's Captain freaking America. What's not to love? But she was quote unquote dead. What really was Fury kind of dropped her behind enemy lines on a Black Ops mission and then left her there, but also kind of kept her in his line.
So, like, as an active agent, or did he abandon her?
Well, the original idea was they abandoned her, and she sort of had to make do.
Gotcha.
Had to, do all the things that she swore she'd never do to get there. And there was, like, a lot of implications that she did a lot of things, She did a lot of untoward things. Later, I think they've kind of made it more that she was dropped behind enemy lines, and she was left to her own devices, but she was also still considered an active asset. So, and it was kind of like the idea that, you can't go home but you also are still part of you're still part of the system, but you can't go home. But we're gonna be here, and we're gonna ask you to do things, and we're gonna have this quid pro quo, but you're mostly gonna be on your own, because you are dead. You are officially a dead person in the West, which makes you a ghost, which makes you a shadow, which makes you useful for us right now. And if we bring you back home and set you up in and if we bring you back, we can't do that. So we had to keep you out there. So it does raise the possibility that she's been working with someone the whole time. That she went rogue, but that Fury had already gone rogue. And as we say, we don't know if that was Fury or Talos who got blipped. But even if, and that's the thing, if Fury got blipped and then Talos took over for him, would we have even known Fury got blipped? Like, did people, that's one of these things. And because Fury was already off grid so much, maybe Talos coming in and being the blipped Fury works, where he could just put it on the face and go in, do what he needed to do, and then if he could utilize Sharon in that way, that's beneficial. There's a lot of possibilities there. Anyway, they go to Madripoor. They talk to someone by the name of Shelby, or Selby. I can't remember if it was Selby or Shelby. Yeah, and she's a mid-level fence, as they say, and she knows where Wilfred Nagel is. Wilfred Nagel, for those who read the comics, is the guy who spearheaded the recreation of the super soldier serum with experimenting on African American soldiers after. And this is actually a common thing people misunderstand about the timeline. So Reinstein created the formula and created Steve Rogers. After Steve Rogers went into training as Captain America to go be Captain America, they still wanted to recreate the super soldier serum, and without Reinhardt, they passed it on to Nagel. Nagel basically took a bunch of African American soldiers and just started experimenting on them without their knowledge, consent, or free will. And and to be fair, that was something that the Army always did. The Army was very big on experimenting on soldiers, black and white, but probably more black than white. So the idea of human experimentation on soldiers was not new. And of course, we all know about all the soldiers that were asked to stand here and watch this atomic bomb blast. Let us know how you feel afterwards, could you? Thank you. But he redeveloped the super soldier serum that Isaiah Bradley got. In this situation, they're saying that someone else did that. Probably, what's his name? Arnim Zola. Because Zola was working with him at the time. That Zola was the one who would have recreated it. Because Zola had worked with it in the past. And he got that working super soldier sample from Isaiah Bradley. And of course, because that's what he says, an American subject, an American test subject. Said that he got the blood of an American test subject without stating it was Isaiah Bradley, which is one of the things that makes Sam mad later. There's a lot that goes on in that. Obviously, we do have the whole thing with Sam getting the call, Selby getting shot. And we're going on the run. Sharon showing up, getting them to Nagel.
How bad is he at this?
Who, Sam?
Yeah.
Sam's not a spy. Sam's not an espionage.
But he's an Avenger, for crying out loud.
He flies in and shoots things. He doesn't do.
I don't know. I find that if you're an Avenger, that is unacceptable. Come on now. That's just like that's.
The Avengers are not a covert team. They're an overt team, They're literally the guys they're literally...
I know, but there's like a basic set level of skills that you have to have. And I feel like, situational awareness, not anything specific to... Because that doesn't take, experience.
He should have had his ringer off. I'm not going to argue with you that he should have had his ringer off. But then again, you also have those kind of questions of, did he have his ringer off and someone else turned his ringer on? You know?
I mean, the phone shouldn't have even been there. Or off or something.
You know.
You're going on and up. You're careful. That was so silly.
You know what? And again, like I said, and really what it is, and again, that's where it goes into these weird questions of what, you know, so obviously, and that would be the thing, like either Winter Soldier or Zemo should have said, don't take your phone, you know, and maybe he didn't take his phone, but someone...
Right, I know, but like, who would think that somebody would be that dumb? You know, you don't expect anyone.
Well, you know, who knows? Like I said, I don't know I have gotten used to not jumping to assumptions about things. I don't think anything is ever exactly what you think it is. But yeah, that plays out poorly, and, you know, they go on their quick run, they get like a bunch of Bitcoin if you kill them, but then Sharon Carter kills all of them. Although it's weird because we see someone with a long rifle shooting them, and then Sharon shows up with a pistol from another direction, which makes you wonder, did she just run that fast? Or does she have a backup person? Was the person with the hoodie Sharon? Or was that her bodyguard?
Interesting.
Or was that Mockingbird? Because that is an interesting question in all of this, because there are these S.H.I.E.L.D. assets that are rogue, you know, that have been rogue for a while. Bobby Morse is one of them. And, you know, they have mentioned that they're the most wanted a few times already in this show. And, of course, her unpicked up pilot was Marvel's Most Wanted. So maybe that'll come up. I don't know. We'll see. You know, it would be a great way to reintegrate some of that stuff back into the larger MCU. But we do know right now that they're not working with a malice theory. They're also not working with anything from the Luke Cage variations on super soldiers, where they were using various animal types to influence the way that cellular reproduction works. This seems like a very straightforward, essentially a steroid kind of concept. But of course, you know, whatever Nagel was working on, we don't know now because he got shot by Zemo. Because that's what he does. He does want to stop this super soldier serum at the source. We find out
that seemed that seemed to really, really worry Sharon Carter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it wasn't the plan.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, nothing's the plan. You live in Madripoor. You live in the shadows. You sell fake art or real art and steal and display fake art. So, and all of a sudden you're like that. Oh my God! You know, it's like.
Well, I think it was shocking. I think everyone was shocked.
Right.
I think it was that you just ended an asset before we could get more information out of them.
Yeah, but So I mean, like, it's interesting. I've been reading a lot online where people are using that as to say, oh, she was part of something that was benefiting from that guy staying alive.
Well, I mean, I think that there's also just this possibility that whether or not she was benefiting from it, he's actually an in-the-field asset that was willing to talk, and that he shoots it, makes it look
that
like
seems way more plausible.
Zemo wanted him to shut up.
Right.
So that's the other take on it, that he was talking and Zemo wanted him to shut up. So, and we do get to see Zemo. He comes out, he's got his purple mask, you know, and he's, which again shows this idea of symbols of, you know, this is the icon of the Zemo legacy, the true super soldiers, the people you should be following. Very Lex Luthorian, you know, this idea of, I was supposed to be the man of tomorrow. How dare Superman come into existence and take away what was supposed to be my right as the world's most important person? So I think that's an aspect of all of this. But within this, obviously, you know, Zemo shows that he is a very much a BA, very much his own super soldierous kind of guy. You know, beats up a lot of the villains along with Sharon Carter, and then does the, sort of BA move where he shoots the gas line at the park just to blow everything up, which is, kind of brilliant. Also, I don't know if that would have worked, but, why not? It works for the film. It works in story. Right. I just got to think that a small caliber pistol shot at that distance would not have had enough force to truly rupture a high-pressure gas main like that. Just because it's a high-pressure gas main in a place where trucks are moving big, heavy objects, you really don't want those just exploding. So,
right.
Just my own personal theory on that, but then again, as you know, there is no OSHA in Marvel, so
right.
Maybe things are very much cut corners all the time. But as it stands, Zemo steals a car. They go to drive off. Sharon makes the point that, we've got a problem. Says to her bodyguard, we got a problem, maybe two, which is interesting. And that's one of the things people point to is like, what's her problem? What are the two problems? But then again,
one is obviously Zemo's out.
Yeah.
And then the other one is that the doctor's dead.
Well, exactly. And I get the feeling it's part of this long con. That's why I think it's much more likely that Sharon is going to be, having been working this very long con as this deep, deep, deep undercover agent, then it's going to be that, no, she was evil all along. Just because
you think so?
Oh, yeah. I don't think she was evil all along. I think she was always this deep, deep cover agent.
And I thought you were saying chronologically, and then turns out that she was evil all along, not comparatively, like she was this more than that.
No, and I actually even think that part of like when she goes in and she's like downplaying the, superheroes, what awful things, that's all just nonsense, right? That seemed a little too on the nose and forced to me.
Yeah.
Like that's what you would expect someone to say. Like almost like she was being watched and she had to say that in this moment.
Right.
And I get the feeling that it's very much that, she is in this very deep, deep undercover and that's the idea. And it's sort of like the idea that, whenever and you see this all the time in things, when you're working on this very long-term sting and someone, arrests the drug dealer that you've been monitoring because you're waiting for them to go to the bigger fish.
Right.
And they beat up the drug dealer and say, we got the drug dealer. It's like, but that was such a small piece of what we were doing. And now
like when another fish steals your bait.
Exactly. So I think that's my thing. Zemo is definitely going to do a major heel turn. He's going to betray everyone and probably try to kill everyone by the end of this. And maybe get his face messed up as a result. Maybe get that mask glued to his face. We'll see.
And I don't think Bucky and Sam are under any, illusion that this guy means well. I think everybody understands that at some point I'm going to try to slit your throat, but you need me right now, so we have to work together. I think that's a very clear understanding. I don't think anybody's under any disillusion that he won't.
Although I do think that Bucky felt really at home being Winter Soldier again. I get the feeling that it felt good.
To not have to think about what you have to do next. To not have to be responsible for your choices. To just say, hey, I'm told to do this, so I don't have to think. I don't have to emotionally justify anything or reconcile anything. I just do.
And to be fair, he's in a place where he can rationalize that everyone here is a villain. So it's not like everybody in Madripoor did something unseemly, which is a big assumption when you really think about it.
Right.
Because obviously kids are born in Madripoor, people live in Madripoor, someone is the fishmonger of Madripoor,
right.
And, just because you're out at the bar does not mean that you're a supervillain, but, he feels...
This is exactly why he needs Sam to take up the mantle. Mm-hmm. Because if he doesn't have somebody like Captain America or Sam taking up the mantle, he is prone to falling to his easy ways of being told what to do.
And to be fair, that's the whole point of it, is that the only person who is worthy of the shield is the person who doesn't want the shield. Cap didn't want a shield. Cap Cap just wanted to be able to fight, you know. He wound up with the shield because, well, I guess it worked, and he was willing to make that compromise, as it were, but it was never his intention. And his hope was always that, oh yeah, eventually they're going to have, 20 of us, and, we're going to be doing all this. And that's one of the things I want to make a point of, They make the point that 20 vials of the serum were taken. Mm-hmm. We don't see 20 people being super soldiers for the Flag Smasher. And we also see that that Kylie came back to Nagel to see if she could help her dying foster mother. And I believe that's what it's supposed to be, that she was she was an orphan beforehand, and this woman was the one who cared for them. And now she's got tuberculosis. And, when you think about it, it's like if you gave her the super soldier serum, if you had extra super soldier serum, that might have helped her. But that you didn't give her the super soldier serum says that you either didn't have it or you were afraid it wouldn't work. And when she goes back to Nagel to say, can you help her? And Nagel just blows her off. That's that moment that sends her even further down the rabbit hole. Because we see after she dies, we see they raid this locale, which had a bunch of soldiers in it. That it was a warehouse, and which is an interesting thing that there are soldiers in the warehouse, because the last warehouse they stole from, there was no one else around. It was just, here's a storage facility, we have this stuff there, and it makes you think about the logistics of stuff, that sometimes, you're moving stuff around, and you may say, oh, well, you have 6 months worth of supplies here, while you're just sitting on it. It's like, well, we have 6 months of supplies here, but we're not just sitting on that, we're the distribution hub.
Right.
So we send this out where it's going to go.
That need twice as much penicillin, twice as much of this. And, I can imagine just thinking on that, how many plagues probably break out and how many flu outbreaks, and there's not enough medicine to make people feel better, and it mutates. And the implications from that perspective are crazy. Yeah.
But the idea that it's the assumption that they're just sitting on it, and there is some precedence for the idea of bureaucratic mismanagement. I'm not going to say that there's not bureaucratic mismanagement, but sometimes...
But at the same time, if you look at 6 months down the road, far from home, we're doing okay. Some of these measures are necessary.
Well, and then again, in New York, we're doing okay.
Right.
Although we do go to Europe, and Europe seems to be okay, but then again, we're not going to the refugee camps in Europe.
Hey,
that's the thing.
Some places are going to have to be okay first,
Yeah, that's
just the nature of things.
And, but... and it's a very telling thing, because we can see clearly there are people still alive. Now we can see that there's soldiers. They're dressed up like soldiers. But then again, as I pointed out, when I got my COVID vaccine recently, I was given to it by a soldier, because they mobilized the National Guard, and it's the National Guard there, and they're the people handling the coordination, and they get me in, they have me sit down, they give me my shot, and that's what they do. And it's all soldiers doing it. So just because they're soldiers doesn't make me think it's inherently nefarious. It's just that these are the people that are in charge of the distribution and the logistics.
Right. And that's my point exactly. I don't think they're bad at all. And I think the version of these people that exists in the Flag Smasher's mind has been put there by somebody taking advantage of these people and their destitute nature.
Yeah.
And giving them an enemy to focus their anger on, when the enemy is really just something we all as humanity have to fight together. We are not each other's enemies. But they've been convinced so.
Exactly. And I think that is the big question in the room is, what are we going to do with these human beings, And,
what's interesting about that is Zemo's talking about symbols from a good perspective. Good people can become symbols, but at the same time, you can create a symbol of evil or a symbol of the opposition, and that can motivate people to do bad things too.
Well, exactly. Or the converse of that is you can declare that this other symbol is the villain.
Right.
Say the GCP is the Red Skull, is Hydra, is Captain America, and Captain America is actually, the fascist Captain America. It's the Captain America that comes in with his boots and stomps on everyone. But maybe there's more subtlety to that too. You know, you always see that as, America in America's history books, and Steve Rogers and American other people's history books, and it's some other version of it that's not quite as pleasant. It's like, oh yeah, but that's that. Anyway, so Kylie kills all the people in the building and shocks the heck out of her coworker in that, because he was not expecting that, which makes you think that she made that choice on her own. One of the things I like to point out with this is that when Nagel is talking about how his serum is better because there's no clunky machines, but actually every version of the super soldier serum that goes wrong, it is literally because it was the canon definition that because they did not receive Vita-Ray treatments, that lack of Vita-Ray treatments is what caused 50s Cap and 50s Bucky to go crazy, along with other versions of the serum. So that idea that, well, we're just going to eliminate these clunky machines is sort of that overemphasis on your own genius when you know there's a part of the process that requires this and you're just going to ignore it, says that you're not really looking more deeply into what's being done. And you're not considering what the down-term effects are, which is actually a common thing when you're rushing towards any kind of a solution. You don't think, it's like the thalidomide. It was for it solved a certain problem, but no one thought, well, what is the larger problem that it might cause? Because you had to do the test to see that. And then once you do the test and you see that, you realize, oh my God, that's horrible. So.
Or you just consider the population expendable and say that they are your test.
Well, yeah. And that is, of course, the Tuskegee experiment. That was, I get very mad whenever anyone says that they infected people. They didn't infect people. That was other things that the government did in other countries. That wasn't Tuskegee per se. They did do it, yes, but not in Tuskegee. It's horrible. American history is pretty awful. But you got America out of the deal, so maybe there's, maybe as we all stand upon the blood and skulls of 1,000 people, maybe there is some value to it. I don't know.
But also, let's not pretend that that's not how every other society got to be where it's at,
Without a doubt. And that, of course, is the bigger issue. But then you get into that idea of whataboutism. It's like, well, everyone else did it too. It's like, yeah, but...
Well, it's not as everyone else does it, but maybe that speaks to a truth about human nature that we don't want to admit.
Yeah. We all want to be nice people, but history has not said we have been largely nice people.
Right. And it's because of this idea of denying that we have this darkness in us and not managing it conscientiously that makes us go down these bad roads, because we want to believe that it is possible for us to be ideal, that we don't have to deal with any of this darkness. So we pretend it's not there, and then it festers and grows. And if we just understand that there is a duality to us and that we do have darkness inside of us, that I think we can operate things a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bag of him. There's actually even a school of thought which I am very offended by, called the weird mode of thinking, which is Western educated, industrialized, rich democracies. That people that live in Western educated, industrialized, rich democracies think in a completely different way than basically everyone that's not. Although, honestly, like all sociological ideas, it completely breaks down the minute you look at it with any kind of a microscope.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, because it's like, well, so what is it, because it's about Western educated, industrialized, rich democracies, which means that Eastern educated, industrialized, rich democracies don't have this. And then you have to go into this whole question. So what exactly differentiates the mind of someone from Japan from the mind of someone from Germany? And they never want to answer that question because,
what's interesting, I saw an interesting video on the internet that sort of blew me away and humbled me a little bit, because there's this narrative going on that I've always heard and that made sense to me, and I agreed with it, that if you watch a lot of Japanese anime, they paint all their characters to look like Westerners or white people. And it seemed like that made sense to me. And I was like, yeah, why do they do that? And then I watched this video, and this guy's like, I've always had this opinion, but let me ask a bunch of Japanese people. So he goes in on the streets of Tokyo and asks, hey, what do you think the nationality or the race of this character is? And all the people that we'd always said, hey, that's supposed to be a white guy. Every single person like, oh, that's a Korean person. Oh, that's a Japanese person. And nobody saw these characters that we would understand as white. So it was like our idea of this thing that they are drawing white people, that it's not true at all. That's not how they see it at all. And we paint this with it like, oh, they're victims of this, super inferiority complex or something like that. And it's not there at all. That's not what it's meant to do at all. And the truth of it is they paint these characters with these sorts of eyes in a way that makes you see yourself in the character. And that's the idea and the design theory behind it. And so, of course, we see ourselves in it, but immediately our thought is to paint victimhood on someone else because of it, and it's not there at all.
Exactly.
It's fascinating to me.
There's, human psychology is a lot more complex than most sociologists want to give it credit for. But when you want
at least at where they are so far, it's always a process, and we're always learning, and that's all it is.
What it is like any science wants numbers, and humans don't work on a binary system. That's the problem, is that humans aren't an on-off. We are all built on fuzzy logic, where it's not a light switch, it's a dimmer switch. And everything about humans is always on a spectrum. And so until you can embrace the idea that everything is a spectrum, anytime you want to define it into a hard line, it's going to fail, because there are no lines in nature, as they say. Everything is some kind of a curve, because nothing gets that specific, that it's just this, here is dark and here is light. It's like, no, right. Here is light. Like, eventually you might get to that point. Like, even absolute zero still has some molecular motion. Because you can't get to absolute zero. You can't really get to absolute zero. Absolute zero is just as close as we can conceive of. And that's the whole
idea of Captain America, that he's the absolute zero of good and evil,
Yeah.
And that's what's dangerous, because there is no such thing.
And of course, Cap would be the first person to say, I'm not. And that's what you need to be a good Captain America. You have to say, I'm not that. Right. I'm not, John Walker wants to live up to the symbol. Sam doesn't feel worthy of the symbol. But what makes you a good Captain America is to understand that there is no symbol that you can live up to, and you will never truly be worthy of the trust people are going to put into you. But the best you can do is just to do your best.
In the moment, and that's it.
In the moment, yeah. To try and use as best moral sense as you can, and not try to get too heavily influenced by your own lines. But then again, fortunately, Captain America was punching Nazis, and Nazis are as close to a straight line existing in nature as you're ever going to get. That was even their symbol, was a bunch of straight lines. So anyway, Mozz, I hope you've enjoyed talking to me. I hope everyone has enjoyed listening to us talk. But a lot of people don't enjoy listening to us talk because they sometimes use inferior quality headphones that they get at the dollar store. And I am guilty of that too, because it's just $1 and it's cheap and it's easy. But you know what you really should do is invest a little bit more. Invest $2, $3, $10 in a high quality set of headsets, which you can get from tweakedaudio.com using the coupon code Southgate upon checkout to get a discount on them, so you can hear these podcasts in their full brilliance. Likewise, you can use that same coupon code Southgate upon checkout over at huntingkiller.com, get that same discount, and also get a really great logic puzzle delivered to your home, essentially an escape room, as you try to help Michelle Gray solve a cold case. If that interests you, if it does not interest you, still go down to our show notes, click on the link that goes to Amazon. Go to Amazon.com, buy anything you want. We don't care. It's up to you. It helps out the show, costs you nothing. And while you're there, you can check out Pod Life, the book written by the Southgate Media Group community about podcasting for you. If you ever wondered, you can read it there. You can get it in digital for your fast-paced world of the future, or get a hard copy which you can put on your shelf in case of the fall of all society. And I didn't ask you before, but any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
No, I think we dug in pretty deep, and I'm, as always with Marvel, it's these deep philosophical conversations of the meaning of right and wrong and the meaning of what it means to be us as humans is always so fascinating, and I appreciate it so much. And this episode was full of those.
As do I, Mozz. All right, so Mozz, if anyone has any deep philosophical thoughts they want to run by you, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Mozz once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things. When there's something I want to live tweet, which I don't have at the moment, but I'm looking. So send me your thoughts on what I should live tweet at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. Avast me hearties, thank you once again for sailing with me and me first mate Mozz down the bounding main of the streaming universe. Mm-hmm. I hope you learned something, and even if you didn't, come back again next week, as we'll once again sail full stream ahead. Arr.